Hello, welcome to our webinar, The State of the AEC Project Lifecycle. Thank you all for joining us today. We're excited to unveil project and resource management insights from our first-of-its-kind report that shares the same name as this session. And we'll be providing access to the report at the conclusion of the webinar. My name is John Mathew, and I'm the Product Director of Project Pursuit and Delivery at BST Global. My team and I manage a portfolio of business applications that facilitate sales, project, and operations management for architecture and engineering firms. I'm happy to be joined today by my colleague Scott Tate, who is a product manager on the Project Pursuit and Delivery team and one of the key leaders behind this study and report. Thanks, Scott, for being a part of this webinar.
Thank you, John. Happy to be here with you today and looking forward to the discussion.
Before we dive into the report, I'd like to take a few moments to share with you who BST is, which should hopefully give you some insight into why we embarked on this study. For those unfamiliar with our company, BST Global provides integrated, project-focused ERP and work management software solutions for the world's leading architects, engineers, and environmental consultants. We've been doing this for nearly 50 years. Currently, we have 5 offices globally, with our headquarters located in Tampa, Florida. We also have a sales, support, and service hub right outside of London in the UK, and offices in the Netherlands, Singapore, and Australia. Our software solutions are being used by over 100,000 A&E users across 65 countries each day. Today, we're here to share the findings from a first-of-its-kind exercise, the State of the AEC Project Lifecycle report, which surveyed leaders from major architecture and engineering firms across the world on their project and resource management practices. In our 2019 report, we unpack key project and resourcing challenges for AEC firms, KPIs and benchmarks specific to your unique industry, and the top priorities our survey respondents had around their projects and their people. So who are our participating firms? To give you a bit of insight into the types of participants we worked with, let's look at their job functions. The majority of our respondents work in projects or operations at 61%. The next largest representation was technology at 22%, and finally, finance team members at 17%. As far as the types of firms we interviewed, the overwhelming majority represented multidisciplinary consultancies. All of our participants offer engineering services, 82% offer environmental services, and then 55% also offer architecture and/or construction services. Many of you may be wondering, why did we focus on projects in the project lifecycle? Well, after years of working with hundreds of consultancies like yours, we understand that projects are at the heart of every AEC firm. It's the focal point around which you center your practice. It's how you assign, create, manage, and deliver work. Because projects are so pivotal to the way you manage your business, we've also made them a priority in our business. Unlike traditional ERP software that focuses on finance and accounting functions first, our ERP solutions focus first and foremost on the needs of the project manager, while also integrating the complex needs of finance and accounting along the way. We understand that projects are important to your firm. Because of this, we wanted to take a deeper dive into the project lifecycle, both for our own understanding and for yours. We believe that by better understanding the current state of the project lifecycle across the industry, you can better assess and benchmark your own firm's project lifecycle and hopefully find areas for improvement, opportunities for streamlining, and room for growth. With that, let's begin with a review of the 5 phases of the project lifecycle, as we have defined them from our discussions with AEC firms. We start where all projects begin, with project bidding and how new projects are pursued, estimated, and ultimately awarded. Next, we move to project planning, during which new projects are structured, staffed, and prepped for delivery. Then we shift to the execution phase, where the project team works on deliverables, status is tracked against plan, and project management stakeholders take action to keep projects heading in the right direction. As projects are being executed, another important aspect of the project lifecycle is resource management, encompassing how projects are staffed, scheduling conflicts are resolved, and staff utilization is optimized. Rounding out our life cycle is portfolio management, whereby groups of projects are tracked and managed together to facilitate optimal cross-project outcomes. Throughout this session, we'll step through each of these phases. But first, let's take a bird's eye view of some of the major project and resource management challenges and priorities that our respondents shared. When it comes to participants' project and resource management practices, inefficiency and poor visibility are the most common symptoms plaguing their processes. Some of the key challenges reported include poor resource utilization, impaired project performance, a lack of insight into their earlier work, limited collaboration and access for their teams, and finally, poor scope and risk management. We'd now like to hear from you all on the webinar today. In light of these common challenges reported by the firms we surveyed, which of these challenges stand apart from the rest for you and your firm? We've just launched a poll in your webinar control panel. Tell us which of these challenges is the most critical to your firm. So it looks like the results are still coming in, but some of the top challenges include impaired project performance, poor resource utilization, and poor scope and risk management. Thank you so much for sharing these findings with us. I think you're seeing them now on your screen as well. Perhaps behind these challenges that you all are reporting is something else we discovered during our research. Across the various challenges identified by our respondents, many of these issues could be traced back to one thing: the tools their firms are using. For the majority of respondents, nearly everything in the project lifecycle, from bids to projects to resources, is being managed in spreadsheets, which are inherently standalone and limited in access and visibility across multiple projects and people. And for firms that also have ERP solutions, only the finance department is really leveraging this tool. The unfortunate truth is that the majority of project managers and department heads are still relying on complex offline spreadsheets to manage their projects and workload. These challenges were further underscored by respondents' top goals for their project lifecycle. The top priority was reducing revenue leakage, followed by increasing client satisfaction. Then came increasing resource utilization, utilizing standard delivery methodologies and best practices across the firm, reducing service delivery costs, and finally, reducing the number of systems used in service delivery. When we look more closely at the highest priority goal our respondents listed, reducing revenue leakage, respondents on average hope to cut this metric in half, from the current average of 6% down to 3%. Resource utilization is another metric respondents want to improve. On average, to increase employee billable utilization by 8 points, going from 2/3 of staff time being billable up to 3/4 of staff time. 3 additional goals respondents shared related to their project schedule and financial performance. Collectively, they have goals to increase projects delivered on time and on budget to 90% and 84% respectively. Finally, increasing project profit margin is a major goal for all AEC firms. Currently, our respondents reported an average 37% project profit margin, which they hope to increase to 39%. Now, I'd like to pass things over to my colleague, Scott Tate, who will help us take a closer look at each phase in the project lifecycle.
Thank you, John. Hello again, everyone. I'm going to kick things off at the top of the project lifecycle with project bidding. When it comes to the project bidding processes, respondents reported a number of challenges, including 1, a lack of standardized estimation tools, processes, and rates across their firm and across various spreadsheets used throughout the firm's many departments. 2, the risk and common occurrence of broken or incorrect bids caused by changes to the spreadsheet format. 3rd, document storage tools being disconnected from bids, for example, proposal documents that are not readily accessible while reviewing a bid estimate. And finally, minimal or no visibility into the capacity and availability of resources when specific people are being planned in a timeline. The bid creation process is typically managed by one of three roles: either the business unit manager responsible for the area of the business, the eventual project manager of the awarded project, or a dedicated bid manager. While all firms reported having a primarily responsible party for individual bids, 85% of the respondents noted that successfully completing the bid process requires collaboration from multiple parties on their bids. In particular, bids for larger, more complex projects often need multiple levels of input, review, and approval. When estimating project fees, respondents report using multiple methods, with 100% creating estimates from the bottom-up method, where an estimate of total hours needed for each anticipated resource type is generated and ultimately summed across all phases of the project to generate an estimated bid fee. From there, 60% of respondents leverage additional estimation methods, including top-down, based on factors such as what the market may bear or what we've traditionally bid. Finally, 20% of respondents will leverage a richer timeline method, whereby specific hours and timeframes that each resource will work on the various phases of the project will be generated to further refine their bids. Now, let's close up the project bidding phase with a few final observations we took from the State of the AEC Project Lifecycle report. As mentioned previously, spreadsheets are the most widely used estimating tool amongst respondents, specifically Microsoft Excel. However, while spreadsheets are used by all, the format and complexities vary from participant to participant. Generally, respondents build their bids using generic roles such as a senior engineer or a project architect. However, firms will occasionally include specific employees in their bids, particularly with existing clients, localized teams, or unique skill requirements. Finally, bids are typically delivered in a format requested by the client, generally containing less detail than the internal estimation tool. Once a project is won, we move into the planning phase of the project lifecycle. Here we see the bid truly come to life with specific timelines and resources detailed out. There are multiple players throughout this phase, from those who create the project plan to those who will execute various aspects of the plan. In the planning phase, respondents reported several challenges, including: 1, having to manually re-enter relevant estimate details into a separate project system for project initiation. 2, inconsistencies between the desired project management work breakdown structure levels and the project financial tracking levels. For example, the finance team may want to capture project revenue at high-level phases, while the project manager may want to track progress against detailed subtasks within a phase. Another challenge is minimal or no visibility into resource availability while assembling the project team. This is primarily because of the fourth key challenge. Project data and the associated resource information for the various project execution teams are stored in separate, disconnected systems. To begin a project plan, all respondents start with their original bid. 100% report reusing bid data. But this is no easy feat for the majority of firms, as 70% report having to re-enter their bid data, including the WBS, resources, estimated fees, and other data, into the project management tool due to the lack of integration with their bidding tool. To complete a project plan with specific resources, respondents note that their project managers typically collaborate with business unit leads or resource managers. However, only 25% of project managers can actually add specific employees to their project plans. For the majority of firms, 75% of them, that responsibility lies solely with the resource manager. And finally, a few additional observations we took from our research with these leading AEC firms. First, projects are typically resourced in a time-phased plan through completion. This means that prior to starting the first task on a project, specific timeframes for each task and the resources who will execute each task have been identified for all tasks in the project plan. However, occasionally project tasks are only resourced 6 to 10 weeks in advance, and project managers must continue to collaborate with business unit managers and/or their resource managers to identify and secure project resources throughout project execution. Additionally, although timeline and resourcing needs are captured for each project task in specific detail by the project manager, these detailed plans are typically for internal use only, with a summary plan generally being shared externally with the client. Another observation we noted is that once the plan is complete, team members usually learn about their specific project assignments through a kickoff discussion with their project manager or via communication from their resource manager. Okay, let's move on to the project execution phase. Now that the project plan is complete, the quote, real work begins. Deliverables are at the center of the project execution phase, with quality and timelines being the key areas of focus. In the execution phase, we captured several challenges from respondents, most notably issues with project status updates and reporting. For example, we found that status updates are typically gathered by the project manager from team members verbally, through project status meetings or through some verbal dialogue with each team member. Once status updates are captured from all team members, those updates are entered into multiple project status systems and reports for distribution to internal and external project stakeholders. This manual project update and reporting process results in delayed project escalation indicators, with project issues often being discovered weeks or months after unscoped charges have already occurred against the project. And finally, document storage tools are typically disconnected from the project plan, similar to what we've heard with bids. This leads to process inefficiencies as team members who are assigned to execute on various aspects of the project plan must search through disparate systems to understand the detailed specifications he or she must complete in order to satisfy the requirements of the assigned task. So, just how many of our respondents are manually gathering project status updates from their team members? Some of you may be surprised to see that 90% of respondents are gathering project status manually. Then again, if you face a similar situation, this may not be surprising at all. And if a project requires a change order, as we all know too well often that they do, the majority of respondents undergo a process similar to that of their initial project bidding process, involving an additional estimation, review, and approval process to understand the impacts of the change order on the original project plan. As such, any changes to the project plan or team member assignments will require additional collaboration with the business unit lead and or the resource manager. Additionally, if a team member's assignments are changed, the overwhelming majority of them, 90%, will again learn of their new or updated task assignments verbally. Now for some additional observations. The common collaboration tools that firms are typically employing, like email, chat, Skype, blogging, are usually disconnected from the project management system. Similarly, project deliverables are stored in repositories such as SharePoint and network folders, which are also disconnected from the project management system. Because of this, it's often extremely difficult to understand the complete picture of a project health, as key project status indicators and key project deliverables are difficult to correlate across these disconnected systems. Now, this brings us to the resource management phase. If you'll recall, improving resource utilization ranked as the third highest priority are participants listed for their project lifecycle. However, while utilization came in third for goals, how firms actually leverage their team can have a significant impact on the top two priorities named, reducing revenue leakage and increasing client satisfaction. That's because properly resourcing your projects for the appropriate time and fee levels can prevent firms from completing work they are unable to bill for. What's more, a client's satisfaction can be highly impacted by the members of your team they are interacting with, as well as the quality of the deliverables being produced by the assigned team. When it comes to managing resources, some of the top challenges our participants listed include: resource managers will typically receive a report or spreadsheet of upcoming team member commitments that is based on outdated project needs. This is due in large part to the fact that gathering project status across multiple ongoing projects and making the associated adjustments assignments across the various projects to meet changing project demands requires significant effort and, more importantly, time to complete. And this delay in updating project assignments results in resource managers making project resourcing decisions based on outdated information. Additionally, the team members expected to complete these tasks have little or no visibility into the details regarding new or updated task assignments. Resource management and project management tools are typically disconnected, resulting in delayed and inaccurate team demand versus capacity data. Future demand from soft backlog, which is generated by bidding activity, is not typically accessible to the resource manager. As one or more of these bids are ultimately won, the resulting influx of demand on the resource team may be larger than the team can absorb given current capacity. In these cases, this often leads to overworked team members, missed project commitments, and reduced client satisfaction as teams scramble to adjust to these new project demands. When team members feel overworked for extended durations, this ultimately leads to team attrition as skilled team members seek more stable work environments elsewhere. One way successful firms combat this attrition is to ensure that team members are engaged in projects for which the team member has expressed interest. Unfortunately, this typically involves a team member having to learn about upcoming projects and express interest in those projects via informal, offline verbal communication with their resource managers. In order to match generic project skill demands to specific team members, resource managers are often engaging in extensive discussions with multiple project managers. This can prove to be a difficult task, as less than 25% of respondents say that their resource managers have access to real-time resource allocation and utilization data when scheduling team members. Instead, they're forced to rely on the outdated team commitment resourcing reports we noted earlier. The typical size of resource teams that a resource manager will coordinate varies from firm to firm, with 80% of respondents reporting having resource teams of at least 11 members, of which 45% have teams larger than 20 members. As we all know, when resource teams expand, the challenges of effectively and efficiently coordinating work for the team grows dramatically. As such, having effective collaboration tools becomes increasingly more critical as teams expand. However, less than 15% of respondents reported leveraging online collaboration tools, instead relying on the verbal communication mechanisms we've previously noted. Now for some final observations on resource management. We've talked quite a bit about resource managers, and rightfully so. For the majority of our respondents, resource managers are considered the gatekeepers to team members. What's more, team members typically hear about projects, the focal point of your firm's commitments to your clients, via verbal communication from the resource manager and or the project manager. Okay, now it's time for another poll. Which of these roles within your firm handles resource management? Department or office manager, project manager, or dedicated scheduling manager? Please answer the poll in your webinar control panel. Very good. Okay, looks like most of you responded here. It looks like the majority of your firms rely on the department manager, but it is evenly spread across the project manager and some kind of dedicated scheduling manager behind that. This is something we can see differs from firm to firm. Now, finally, we closed out the project lifecycle with project management. With portfolio management, the analysis of all proposed and active projects within a particular area of the firm and ultimately across the entire firm. Among the key challenges respondents listed for their portfolio management practices were, first, difficulty measuring portfolio results due to inconsistent reporting formats across various project teams. Second, similar to the difficulties we noted in gathering and reporting project status, the reporting of portfolio status with metrics across multiple projects results in additional delays reporting portfolio status and escalation indicators. And finally, respondents noted an inconsistent use of communication and documentation storage tools across the portfolio of projects, which significantly hinders cross-portfolio collaboration. Portfolios are typically managed by region, market segment, or client, with the latter being the most popular way to organize portfolios at 40%. However, the way in which responding firms perform portfolio management is inconsistently applied across departments in their practice. Of the firms who do practice portfolio management, only half of them report having a standard set of processes and tools used consistently across their portfolios. The remaining firms performed this on an ad hoc departmental basis. What's more, AEC portfolio management practices appear to focus primarily on project financials. Less than 10% of respondents reported leveraging portfolio-based resourcing practices, for example, reviewing a portfolio of projects together versus reviewing projects one by one to optimize resource usage across the portfolio of projects. But one thing to note for this entire phase of the project lifecycle, for most of our respondents, portfolio management is not currently a widely adopted practice. That said, it is an increasing area of interest. Now I'll pass it back to my colleague, John Mathew, who's going to wrap things up with us for some closing thoughts. Be sure to stick around to the very end so you can get the first access to the complete state-of-the-art, State of the AEC Project Lifecycle Report. Thank you all for your time today. John, over to you.
Thanks, Scott. As you can see, while much progress has been made in terms of project and resource management in the AEC industry, our participants' responses show that there is still room for growth and improvement in the project lifecycle. Now, hope you didn't think I'd let you get away without one more poll. I'd like to close things out by reflecting on the project lifecycle as a whole, as we've laid it out today. Which phase in the project lifecycle currently holds the biggest opportunity for improvement for your firm? Is it project bidding, project planning, project execution, resource management, or portfolio management? Let us know using your webinar control panel. Great. Looks like the results are almost in. And looking at your responses, the biggest opportunities for improvement for you all are in the area of resource management as well as project execution. Again, thanks for sharing this with us. And hopefully you've gotten a better idea of how other firms in your industry are dealing with these particular stages and more broadly, the entire project lifecycle. Hopefully you've also gotten additional perspective on what's at stake for your firm if you gain better control over your project lifecycle. Let's take a look back at those original top priority goals from our respondents and reframe them in terms of benefits for your firm. First, reduced revenue leakage. Additionally, increased client satisfaction and resource utilization. And finally, reduced errors, service delivery costs, and number of systems used throughout project delivery. Now, who wouldn't want that? And now, as promised, the time has come to share the complete State of the AEC Project Lifecycle Report with you. As we've shared throughout this webinar, our 2019 report unpacks key project and resourcing challenges for AEC firms, KPIs and benchmarks specific to your unique industry, and the top priorities our survey respondents shared around their projects and people. Because you attended this webinar today, you will be the first professionals in your industry to be able to access this report. If you click the handout section of your control panel, you can now access the report there. Additionally, if you'd like to share this report with someone else or download it later, you can also access it at the URL displayed at the bottom of this slide, bstglobal.com/AEC Project 2019. Thank you all for your time today. We hope you found this webinar helpful and informative. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about BST Global and our ERP software solutions for the AEC industry, you can find us using the contact information you see here. Also, immediately after the webinar concludes, a quick survey will pop up on your screen. If you wouldn't mind taking a few moments to respond, we would greatly appreciate your feedback to help us create even more educational webinars and content for you in the future. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.